Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, February 3rd. If everybody would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well said, Celeste. You were like the perfect echo background for us. All right. Thank you guys all for being here this evening. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard. Here. Member Garza.
Here.
Member Peters.
Here.
Member Benedict.
Here.
Member Estrada. Member Dugan.
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here. All right. Director, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
All righty. And did everybody get a chance to approve review the minutes from last meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 All right. All right. So first agenda item is elections of chair and vice chair for 2022. So this time, typically I think we missed it. Typically we do it in January, month behind, but we need to re-elect or we need to go through that whole process again.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to re-elect Mr. Miller for chairman.
Second.
Motion and second. Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, I will close the nomination portion for the chairman. And I guess because there's only one, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, and so now I'll open it up for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I move to elect Mr. Brett Benedict for vice chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Member Benedict to be vice chair. Do I have any other nominations? Hearing none, I will close the vice chair nomination portion. Since we have one candidate, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
See how they snuck that in fast enough so Celeste opposed it? Just
Good to have a little bit of it.
That's right. Perfect. So with unanimous, we have Brett as vice chair and myself continuing as chair. Obviously, thank you guys.
Yep.
All right. So
You've done it
next
before.
next item, consent agenda. So we've got just the one item on this evening, correct?
Correct.
All right. And so if
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion or any concerns? Anybody would like to pull that item from the public as well? You're allowed to. Seeing nobody, Natalie, would you please, can we do a roll, or can we do just a aye vote on that one, or do we need a roll call?
Aye vote's fine.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Do that to her all night.
Robert, she had a question.
Oh, yeah. Do I have a question? Let me see if I can move that microphone a little bit. There you go. Sorry about that. All right, so jumping into new business. We've got a number of items on the agenda this evening, so for those of you that have not attended a meeting before, staff will get the opportunity to present the agenda item. From there, the commission will ask questions of staff, getting any further clarification. Once that's complete, we will invite the applicant and/or their representative to come forward. They will be able to add any additional information, answer any questions that might be specifically to them. Once that portion is completed, we will open it up to the public. We'll give the public an opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Since we do have a very lengthy agenda, just know I can see a clock. I don't know if you guys can see a clock down here. There's a 3-minute portion for public. We just ask that you be brief and concise. If there's a question you have that needs to be answered, we'll kind of wait through the public portion, so then that way we can bring back either staff and or an applicant to make sure we hopefully answer all the questions that there may be this evening. And so with that, we will go into the first agenda item. Yep, no worries. Public hearing and consideration request by Air Products and Chemical, DSA 21-00187 for a conditional use permit, as well as DSA 21-00188 major site plan.
Good evening, Commissioners. Air Products is requesting approval for a conditional use permit and a major site plan for a liquid hydrogen production facility on 40 acres, generally located near the southwest corners of Peters Road and Burris Road. You can see it highlighted in yellow below. It's just west of the Tractor Supply Distribution Center and Lucid Motors. The main purpose of this request is to manufacture and provide liquid hydrogen and other gases to the high-tech and clean fuel transportation industries in Arizona and the Southwest. The hydrogen produced in Casa Grande will primarily be used to support regional transportation systems and other users. You can see the site overlaid on the site plan overlaid on the site to your right. And we'll blow it up just a little bit more in detail. You can see over on the western side is their entrance. They've got some transportation related items on the western side, and then their processing facilities, equipment is mostly to the east of the site. When looking at the conditional use permit, we look at the following criteria. It's all been covered in your staff report. Tonight, we're just going to concentrate on one of the items, and that is that the proposed use will have no adverse effect upon abutting property. So as stated in our city code, the purpose of the I-2 General Industrial Zone District is to provide for development of industries which, because of the nature of their operation, appearance, traffic generation, or emission, would not be compatible with land uses in other zoning districts, but which nevertheless are necessary and desirable activities in the city. So this zone district does provide an appropriate location for this intended use. Additionally, the applicant purposely planned the site so that the tallest structures are pulled away from the abutting residential zone property to the west to reduce the visual impact of the facility. And also, in conjunction with the resolution, staff is requesting the applicant meet the following two conditions to minimize any adverse effects. So the first one is to provide a decorative block wall along Peters Road frontage. And then the second one is to provide one tree every 30 feet along the developed western boundary of the site. We're going to jump into the major site plan review criteria. We cover the following criteria. Again, we're just going to concentrate on a couple of highlighted items here tonight. The rest have been covered in your staff report. The first one is pedestrian and vehicular ingress and egress. The site is proposed to have a cul-de-sac entrance from Peters Road on its far west boundary. From there is a secure gated entrance with appropriate stacking available for trucks at the gate. A sidewalk is proposed along Peters Road and extends along the entrance road cul-de-sac to the site. And then an emergency access route has been proposed on the far east of the site. The importance of the cul-de-sac there is we're also requesting that they record access easement agreement so that when the properties to the west develop, they can utilize that same access point. The next one we'll cover is building location and height. The request does have some structures that exceed the maximum building height of 60 feet. However, for buildings exceeding 60 feet, the city code does allow an increase of height up to 75 feet. With that increase in height to 75 feet, you just need to add a little bit of street frontage landscape area and materials and increase the building setbacks to mitigate the impact of that additional height. The proposed buildings have been, and equipment locations are throughout the site, all meet the required setbacks. And then additionally, some of the proposed structures exceed that maximum allowed height of 75 feet for the I-2 zone district, but are exempt from the height restrictions as they are considered part of the manufacturing process. So you can see like the vent stack goes to approximately 106 feet, but that's exempt in our code due to the fact that it facilitates the manufacturing process. In regards to the public hearing notification, we met or exceeded all city requirements. We did not receive any comments on this proposal. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution with the following conditions. Provide an 8-foot tall decorative block wall along Peters Road frontage. And then this one I covered earlier, but it's been added since we published the staff report, and that is to add 1 tree for every 30 feet along the western boundary of the developed site. And then following that, staff recommends the commission approve the major site plan with the following conditions and technical modifications. Those were all covered within your staff report and have not been changed. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yeah,
Member Benedict.
Chairman, so that stack looks like, I'm guessing it's all the way to the east in that conglomeration on the east.
Yeah, it's located
Thank you.
right in you can see the L shape, the backwards L shape equipment there. It's located in that region.
Gotcha, it's not over here on this piece
No.
that's up to the west next to
No,
the
they
catch.
purposely moved it as far to the east as they could to avoid any adverse impact on the adjoining properties to the
Nice.
west.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, Mr.
One, just for security, I know you got the block fence that's 8 feet tall. Will the other fence around it be 8 feet, or is a chain link fence enough security for around this facility because the potential of explosions?
There is a chain link fence, 8 feet tall around the rest of the entire site. There is security gates at all the locations that enter into the site. I did have a conversation with our fire marshal this morning in regards to any safety issues that he felt uncomfortable with. He was incredibly complimentary about how Air Products approached this process. They did a field trip down to their site in Chandler. They've provided some records in their narrative saying that they have a 30-year history of being clear without having any issues. And our fire marshal felt that they went above and beyond what code requires in regards to safety of the site.
In the 30 years that they were in Chandler, they had never had any incidents of explosion or so forth.
I'll let the applicant touch on that, but according to the narrative provided, they had not had an incident.
Thank you.
I got one question.
Member Peters.
Did they, I didn't see the drawing as,
You want
for that.
the larger one?
Well, just for that stack, did they mention what the diameter of that stack is?
I think so the drawing is to scale, but I don't know the exact dimensions of that stack. They
doesn't-
might be able to answer
Okay.
that question.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's
Yeah.
too overwhelming. That's it.
Great. Any other questions for staff? Member Garza. All right. At this time, then, I'll open it up to the applicant. Would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It's a good opportunity to be with you here in Casa Grande this evening. My name is Ralph Pugh and Vanessa McDonald from our office. We're legal counsel for Air Products and the land use issues here in Casa Grande with respect to this site plan approval and the conditional use permit. Let us first of all just say thanks. Your staff has been wonderful to work with. We actually filed this application in May of last year. So there has been significant amount of thought and effort into the design, the location, how things are placed. And to answer a couple of questions before I forget, with respect to safety, Commissioner Dugan, yes, there have been no explosions in the Chandler site. Frankly, there have been no incidents there to speak of that are significant. And uniquely, if you've been to Chandler, if you've been to the intersection of the 202 and the 101 where the Chandler Mall is, right across the highway, the freeway to the east, is the Chandler facility. And it has operated there now for 40 years and is completely landlocked now and surrounded by all kinds of uses. And they just run a great team and a great project and do great work here. And frankly, with respect to security, the people who are more concerned about that are the folks sitting over here from Air Products tonight than any of us in this room are, frankly. So let me just briefly introduce those that are here, and then we'll answer questions because we know you have a long agenda. Gretchen Swain is our Western Regional Line Manager. We have Greg Fontaine, who runs our Chandler facility. We're delighted to have Stanley Holubowski with us. He'll be running the Casa Grande project. And with us tonight is Tommy Riley, who's our new Public Relations and Government Affairs Director for the West Region. We also have our engineer. Where's Julie? Julie Swain, hi, nice to see you. Thanks, Julie. Julie D. Maria, I'm sorry. So, Mr. Chairman, we want you to know that we believe fully that we've complied with all the findings of fact. So when you think about it, this use really is an allowed use in the I-2 district, but because of its nature and other uses similar to it, you have a conditional use permit process. And rather than bore you with it all tonight, your staff report lists all the findings that are required to grant a conditional use permit. And in response to the application that we filed, we actually answered all of those questions, and then the staff responded in your staff report, and we all reached the same conclusion that this plan, its design, its configuration on the site all meet those criteria for a conditional use permit. And we encourage you tonight, as you evaluate this case, if you find it within your decision to approve the conditional use permit, please reference the fact that those findings have been met. I'm happy to go through them, but I think they're adequately covered in the staff report. We could tell you all kinds of things. Air Products has plants and locations in 50 countries, 19,000 employees, and the world's largest producer of hydrogen. And if you have questions about that, we have all the technical people here tonight. I've made enough mistakes in my life trying to act like an engineer or a chemist. I'm not doing it tonight. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, we urge your support of this conditional use permit and the major site plan, and we'd be happy to answer questions if you have any, but I don't want to hold you up any further.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Member Dugan.
Yes, is this plant bigger than the one in Chandler?
Commissioner Dugan, we have 40 acres here, but we're not developing the entire site, right? I mean, it's short of 40 where there's the southern boundary, but Chandler is what? 50? 50 probably. Chandler's slightly bigger. And frankly, sorry, Commissioner Dugan, go ahead.
Yeah, so has the technology in this plant from Chandler has improved and more secure than the plant? What is it in Chandler with new technology? Is it I would assume there's going to be a lot more new technology to this plant than the one in Chandler.
Commissioner Dugan, let me try to answer that one from a lay point of view, because that's what we all are, right? The people know what they're doing are back there. It's this simple. Chandler, over the years, began 40 years ago when nothing was there, nothing. And it produces nitrogen, also oxygen and argon, but is predominantly delivering nitrogen to the high-tech industry in the entire valley to run their plants. So it's a different system than producing the hydrogen. But it's all miraculous to me. How do you take common ordinary air in Chandler and turn it into hydrogen and deliver it? Or how do you take water in Casa Grande and turn it into hydrogen that then is fuel efficient and does all kinds of good things for industry? So don't get me started. I don't have the answer to it, but it works.
Any other questions for the applicant?
So,
No?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for being here this evening, all of you, obviously.
Congratulations
And
on
a
your
full-
election. You and the vice chair tonight, too.
Yeah, thank you. We were trying to debate how many years I've been sitting here earlier, but I can't remember. All right, so at this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item?
Hi, I'm Mayor Dorman from the Casa Grande Dispatch. I guess first I'd like to, so my question was just about if they could talk about the manufacturing process. And I want to apologize because I think I got it wrong in our preview for the meeting about how the hydrogen is manufactured. So I want to, somebody could talk, make sure we get that correct in terms of whether it's blue or green hydrogen. And then also how, if they could just briefly say how the plant, how the Casa Grande facility will compare, I guess, to their hydrogen plants overall. I know that the Chandler plant produces different stuff, but just, yeah, what, how sort of the hydrogen process is across their whole portfolio. In other words, if they're using a sort of a quote unquote greener method in Casa Grande than there have been before in some of the other plants that use the methane compression system. But anyway, I was just hoping to get some clarification on that.
Hang on before you step up. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak to this agenda item?
Mary Elizabeth Mora. I just have two questions. Number one, he said they use the water to make the oxygen, the hydrogen. How much water would they actually be using? And number two, if this was to explode, how far would the impact go in Casa Grande?
Oh, real quick, ma'am. Sorry, could you come up and we need name and address for the record.
We got the name, just the address.
Oh, sorry. Name and just come up and, sorry. I forgot to add that in my beginning spiel.
The name is Mary Elizabeth Mora. The address is 1124 East Racine Drive, Cottonwood Ranch.
Great, thank you. All right, anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Okay, so what I'm gonna ask is, applicant, you by all means, apparently you guys got a techie guy back there that's gonna come explain all this. The goal, hopefully somewhat be brief, because I wanna make sure that the public gets their answers, but at the same time we can connect, I think, offline potentially with some additional questions. Because I gotta somewhat keep to the agenda items as well, but.
Not a problem. Yeah, so I'm Stan Holobowski. I'm the project manager from Air Products, who's been overseeing this, working with Joe on the development of the conditional use permit and the major site application. So to answer the first question about the type of hydrogen that we're generating. So yeah, it is not blue hydrogen, it is green hydrogen. The distinction there being, as you mentioned, that blue hydrogen has some aspect of methane or other constituents that distinguish it from green hydrogen. So for green hydrogen, it is 100% renewable, and the way that we're doing that is through electrolysis. So we are just using water, physically separating water into its molecular structure, oxygen, hydrogen, and using that hydrogen in our liquefaction process, and that's what at the end of the day the product is. To answer your question about how much water we use, it's roughly 30 GPM is what the electrolyzers use to basically run the plant. To give you kind of a perspective of how much water that is, it's a little bit more than a glorified garden hose, essentially. So we're not talking about a substantial amount of water that should be detrimental to the environment or otherwise. And the last question about explosion risks. So, as mentioned, Air Products, safety is our #1 priority for, the construction of the plant and the operation of all of our facilities. So we have internal processes and procedures for how the plants are designed, locations of flammable processes and potential explosion risks, how we identify them. So the equipment has been sited on the property such that if there was a situation where we had a loss of hydrogen that would lead to some kind of explosion, that overpressure scenario would be contained within the property. So we don't expect there to be any off-site impacts, and to be honest, we haven't seen any kind of catastrophic event that would cause any kind of off-site impacts at any of our facilities recently. So I think that covered all three of the questions, but certainly if there's any others, you could feel free to reach out to us.
Great.
I got one more before you sit down.
Sure thing.
How many people does this thing go to employ?
So permanent employees, we expect to be about 25.
25.
And then during the construction of the project, it'll be roughly a peak manpower of about 100 contractors to construct the plant.
Thank you.
No problem. I was just reminded that there was a question on the diameter of the stack.
Yeah.
That's 105 feet tall or so. It's about 12 or 14 inches, so it's not substantial. It's just used for venting of some nitrogen and hydrogen that's used during the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Perfect. So at this time, if there's nobody else from the public, I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA-21-00187, a conditional use permit, associate resolution to allow for the production and storage of explosive materials along with the conditions of the staff.
So, motion and a second for approval with the associated resolution with conditions presented this evening. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I go ahead and approve DSA to approve DSA-21-00188 for a major site plan for liquid and hydrogen production facility with the staff recommendations.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Aye.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Congratulations, guys. Good luck with your next project. You guys want to connect or something? Maybe the newspaper guy might have a great article for you guys if you want to exchange some contact info. All right, next up, public hearing and consideration for, losing track of my stuff here. Real Estate Equities, Inc. to B2 to R3, DSA 21-00275.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. The location of this rezone request is at the southeast corner of Quartzen and Treckle. Currently, the 9.95 acres that's subject to the proposed rezone is zoned B2, which is known as general business. And in the B2 zone, general commercial is allowed, retail, restaurant uses. With the approval of a conditional use permit, there could be fast food establishments, car washes, tire shops. The maximum height allowed in the B2 zone is 35 feet, and the setback requirement for structures from the Cottonwood Ranch boundary would be 45 feet. The request this evening is to rezone those 9.95 acres to R3, which is a multifamily zone district. The R3 zone allows multifamily structures. Based on the site size of just shy of 10 acres, they would be allowed up to 216 units. And the R3 zone does allow the construction of 3-story buildings or 35 feet maximum height. And the R3 zone requirement is a minimum building setback of 20 feet from all property lines. And then just to walk through some of the other zone designations of this vacant site here at the corner of Courtson and Treckle. Beyond the 9.95 acres that is proposed to be rezoned, there's actually 2 other zone districts that lie on the vacant property to the south. This whole vacant site is about 16.5 acres, so just 9.95 is subject to the zone change. Tucked in the southeast corner of the vacant parcel is an R2 zoned property with conditions of record. That's not part of this request, but just a little bit of background. That R2 zone is 5 acres in size. It allows for medium-density residential development such as duplexes. However, what brought about that particular zone district was to support the potential of a skilled nursing facility, which would be subject to a conditional use permit in the R2 zone. That has yet to go forward in front of you, but the conditions of record on that 5-acre piece is that any structure on those 5 acres would be limited to single-story development, and there's a requirement for a 75-foot setback from the Cottonwood Ranch boundary in that area. The other zoning designation on this large vacant piece is CO. It's a 1.62-acre piece that abuts Treckle towards the south. CO zoning is commercial office zoning. Again, this area is also not part of the rezone request. It allows for general and medical office uses. The maximum height here would be 30 feet, and the minimum setback for structures from the Cottonwood Ranch neighborhood would be 30 feet. So the specific request at hand for the 9.95 acres highlighted in that blue dotted area, staff went to look and assess the impact that R3 development would have based on existing uses and existing zoning designations surrounding this area. One thing that I want to note is it is at the confluence of 2 arterial roads, Courtson being a principal arterial and Treckle being a minor arterial. And to the north of Courtson, you do have a mixture of different uses. Of course, the school site to the northeast, and then there is a multifamily development north, and then commercial development on the corner. To the northwest, catty corner to here is not constructed, but it's designated for commercial at the hard corner with multifamily surrounding it. And then you have also to the west and south designated office uses, and then the potential for duplex or institutional uses. To the east is the area that we're the most sensitive to because it is the existing single-family residential neighborhood, Cottonwood Ranch. But what exists within Cottonwood Ranch is a 30-foot landscape tract between the back of the lots there along the western portion and the property in question. And that was put into place at the time of the platting for Cottonwood Ranch in anticipation of any non-residential or development different from single-family residential on that vacant parcel. But staff is recommending some conditions to this R3 zoning that would help bolster compatibility with the adjacent Cottonwood Ranch neighborhood, and I'll walk through those with you. So one of the conditions that we're recommending is that a minimum of a 20-foot landscape buffer be provided along the eastern portion of this property. So together with the existing 30 feet of landscaping, there would be a 50-foot wide landscape buffer to help bolster compatibility between the multifamily and the single-family use. I should also note that on the R2 zone to the south, there was a similar condition. So that 20-foot landscape buffer would extend south of this site as well. once that site were to develop. The second condition that we're recommending is appropriate screening along the eastern boundary of the site, such as a screen wall or vegetation would be determined at the time of major site plan. Now, this zoning process is the first step. Should this be recommended for approval and ultimately approved by council, the next step for the applicant would be to submit for a major site plan where we would look at the specific siting of the buildings and other matters, and I'll get into that on an upcoming slide. But it would be at that time where we could assess what appropriate screening type would be recommended. The third condition that's being recommended is that any portions of buildings greater than 1 story or greater than 20 feet in height shall be set back a minimum of 125 feet from any single-family residential lot. The condition placed on the R2 zone to the south was 75 feet and limited development on that site to single story. So staff felt it was important to recommend an even greater setback given the fact that development in the R3 zone could lead to the potential of 35-foot tall or 3-story structures. The fourth recommended condition is that any portions of buildings greater than 1 story or greater than 20 feet in height within 200 feet from the Cottonwood Ranch single-family residential lots shall have their narrowest elevations be oriented to be parallel with the western boundary of the Cottonwood Ranch lots. What that would do is it would help break up the massing of large buildings, so the Cottonwood Ranch neighborhood would not see large, long buildings, but they would see their narrow sides. A conceptual plan has been provided by the applicant to show how that condition would work. If you notice, the buildings highlighted in purple there are oriented so their narrowest features are parallel with the area of Cottonwood Ranch that this is most directly adjacent to. And then the fifth condition has to deal with dedication of right-of-way, and that tends to be kind of a boilerplate condition on zone changes. Typically what happens is at the time of major site plan review, we ask for any necessary right-of-way dedication for roadways that may be necessary. But what this condition does is it says that in the event that the city's doing some sort of public improvement project where we're wanting to widen a road prior to development, the owner will go ahead and dedicate the necessary property for right-of-way purposes prior to the normal trigger for that, which would be development. And then I kind of alluded to this on a previous slide, but when we start looking at matters such as traffic mitigation, so whether or not there would be turn lanes into the site and the location of driveways and landscaping detail, drainage retention, etc., those would be matters identified at the time of the major site plan consideration. And there would be engineered analysis provided to determine the most adequate amount of infrastructure. However, this conceptual plan provided does help because it helps demonstrate how the site can function as proposed. When considering zone changes, these are the 3 criteria that are evaluated, and the staff report goes into each of these 3 criteria in greater detail. But basically, this speaks to compliance and conformance with the city's general plan. So this area is located within the Community Corridor 2030 General Plan Land Use Designation. And within the Community Corridor Land Use Designation, it encourages increased activity along arterial roads, such as the confluence of Quartzon and Treckle. And it encourages the provision of a range of uses. And multifamily zoning is supported in the Community Corridor designation up to 25 dwelling units per acre. If this site were to construct at its maximum of 216, that would actually just be shy of 22 dwelling units per acre. All multifamily development adjacent to single-family residential uses shall be designed to be compatible. That's kind of a general statement, but that is why staff imposed conditions on this site that are greater than what you would find in a typical R3 zone. A typical R3 zone would allow buildings to be as close as 20 feet from its property line, whereas we're advising that it be basically 125 feet away from the closest single-family residential lot. So it's by far a much greater required setback to help bolster the compatibility. And then also one of the criteria of the community corridor is that whether or not this zone change is determined to be necessary. And staff has determined that multifamily is necessary at this time, basically due to the fact that when you look at the mixture of housing options in a community, and historically, multifamily product should represent about 15% of residential units in a city. In the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, we have permitted 2,700 single-family home permits. But by comparison, we have only issued 11 permits for multifamily units, whereas there should have been 400 if we were to be representative of that 15%. So there is a shortfall in multifamily units, and so that's why we feel that it is determined necessary at this time to support R3 zoning here. And then also, we are required to look at goals and action steps that would speak to this zone change request found within the general plan. In the general plan, there's a goal to promote high-density residential uses along urban corridors and near major commercial centers. This is along an urban corridor, that being Quartzon Road. It's ultimately designed to be a 6-lane road with an interchange with I-10. And one of the action steps for that goal is to use multifamily to meet the housing demand that is currently present within the city. One of the other goals found in the general plan is to encourage higher density residential projects in areas designated as community corridor. And the action step for that promotes the use of vacant commercial land for intensive residential uses where appropriate. And this is currently vacant, commercially zoned property, so it would seem to speak to that goal and action step. However, one of the goals also talks about compatibility, and it says we are to promote use-to-use compatibility when approving new developments adjacent to existing residential areas. One of the action steps is to promote design compatibility between residential developments of different scale by encouraging the use of physical separation or landscape areas to separate single and multi-story developments. And so that's one of the reasons why staff is recommending a large setback between the Cottonwood Ranch neighborhood and development on this site to create a physical separation to help bolster that compatibility. And then there's also a general plan guiding principle, which is to increase the range of housing choices and products available to all members of the Casa Grande community. We believe that this request would do that. As far as the next steps, should you vote to make a recommendation that City Council approve this, this item would be placed on the council agenda on March 7th. And then the next step for the applicant would be to submit for a major site plan. The major site plan also goes in front of a public hearing, and there's public notification. And it would be at that time when we would really get into the weeds in terms of analysis of traffic demand and how that impacts the level of service to the roads that would be needed to serve that site, and any improvements that would be necessary to those roads to not degrade the level of service beyond an unacceptable level. And then there would be other reports to demonstrate the adequacy of utilities, and whatever infrastructure improvements necessary would have to be made in order to recommend support of that plan. And then should that be approved, the next step after that would be for the applicant to go into the permitting process, which would involve site development, public improvements such as improvements to Quartzon specifically, and then onto their building permits. As far as the notification process goes, there was a neighborhood meeting held for this on November 17th. There was notice sent for that to the Cottonwood Ranch HOA, and then notice was sent to owners of property not only within 300 feet of the 9.95 acres to be rezoned, but it was sent out to 300 feet of the entire vacant 16.5 acre parcel. One resident attended that meeting, and then after that meeting, there was one inquiry on December 6th from a resident who had inquired via telephone, and then comments were provided via email to them, but no further follow-up was occurred. And then on January 12th, there was the notice of the Planning Commission and Council hearings. There were, in response to that, there were 2 inquiries, but no specific comments provided. And then this week, we did receive 3 additional comments that didn't make it into your staff report because of how recent we received them. But I have printed them, or Natalie printed them for you, and we distributed them for your review. Basically, they were from a husband and wife and then another homeowner, and those contacts are identified on the stars on the screen. This shows you that 300-foot notification boundary that was received. To summarize their concerns and their comments, they're not in support of the R3 zoning. They feel that the commercial zoning should remain, that that's more appropriate for this location. They're worried about the height of the buildings and the intrusion of privacy and the impact that the multifamily development would have on traffic. And they do encourage that that business entitlement remain. One comment had said that should there be R3 development, they would advise to have it be limited to 2 stories. And there was concern about the diminishing of property values and then just the deterioration of the privacy of property due to the proximity of the multifamily development. And again, this just shows the conceptual site plan and how the buildings have been set back from the Cottonwood Ranch neighborhood in such a way that the intent was to help alleviate or address some of those potential concerns. And as a result, staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward to Council a recommendation to approve this zone change request subject to the following requirements. I did update or modify the requirements from the time that the staff report was published, but we also passed out the modified conditions. They're essentially the same. We did strike one condition regarding the requirement to provide access easements. Those access easements have already been recorded, so we didn't need to stipulate that as a condition. That was to provide access to that R2 parcel that's kind of landlocked there to the south. And the other modifications had to do with the fact that we had originally, we really didn't distinguish what types of buildings had to be set back, but it was reworded to basically say any building that's over 20 feet in height or beyond single story had to meet particular setbacks. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Any questions for staff? Just going to ask for a quick clarification. You had on the sample plat, I know it's just a general spot filler for the presentation, but it noted their 150 feet was from the lot line, not even from the property line. So I just wanted clarification that the condition is from the property of the homeowner or property line of the subdivision?
Chairman Miller, that's a great question. So what you see on their conceptual site plan is actually exceeding the recommended condition. We're recommending that any building over 20 feet tall or beyond 1 story be placed 125 feet from a residential lot. So the closest residential lots from this property are about 30 feet away because there's that 30-foot landscape tract. So effectively, this would be even a greater setback beyond that which staff is recommending. That is to allow some shifts in the way the site will ultimately have to lay out to accommodate for matters such as ensuring that they have an adequate amount of open space, drainage, et cetera.
Correct. Okay, just clear, I was just trying to, seeing this and then the way it was said.
Sure.
I just wanted clarification, make sure it was the lot line, not the subdivision
Correct.
property, but this example obviously exceeds it, makes it close to 180 feet.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
I have one question.
Member Dugan.
The other property that's around it, it looks like they're going to be landlocked, so is there going to be access to, like they have skilled nursing, that acres in that southwest corner? How are they going to have access to that property?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Dugan, good question. There is a recorded easement document that provides access to that landlocked piece.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Any other questions for staff?
And what's the zoning across the street, like just west on Treckle and Hortson? What would that vacant lot across? What's the zoning?
Directly west, Commissioner Hubbard, is a PAD, but it doesn't specify the uses. So any proposed development on that vacant parcel would have to come in for basically establishing what those uses are to be.
And then the roads, when are we going to expand the roads? Is that going to be, or widen the roads? Because it's highly trafficked in that area, like between 6 and 8 in the morning, or 9, especially with the school in there. It's always backed up.
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Hubbard, so what we look at the time of development is firstly whether there's additional right-of-way dedication necessary for the roadway classification that the site abuts. Treckle is a minor arterial, so minor arterials are designed to be 2 lanes in each direction with a center turn lane, bike lanes on each direction, sidewalks, et cetera. Ultimately be 110 feet wide. Actually, Treckle does currently meet that street profile. However, one thing that we would look at the time of proposed development is a traffic impact analysis that would evaluate whether it would be appropriate or what type of measures would have to be taken for traffic to access or come and go off of Treckle. If the impact is going to be such that it affects the level of service of Treckle beyond an unacceptable grade, then that would be a choice in our review whether or not to recommend that access be shifted elsewhere, that they maybe propose a less dense development, or make certain upgrades to Treckle, such as a turn lane.
Yeah,
In certain instances, there have to be some improvements. Quartzen is designed to be a principal arterial, which would ultimately be 140 feet wide.
Okay.
And currently, it isn't that wide, both to the north and to the south. So at the time of proposed development is when we can get right-of-way dedication, and we can, with the development of this vacant parcel, we can ask for enough right-of-way that would equate to 70 feet south of that center line. There's currently 2 lanes going in each direction right there.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what would happen is probably as a public improvement project, the city would come in and add the 3rd lane, and they would have to negotiate with the property owners to the north if we were going to do it in each direction to acquire some additional right-of-way. But depending on the assessment of that traffic impact analysis will determine what types of further improvements would have to be made to Quartzen beyond just the right-of-way dedication. For sure, there'd be a sidewalk, street lights, probably a turn lane more than likely be provided there, and whatever upgrades, other additional upgrades that would be necessary to maintain an adequate or acceptable level of service for both those roads.
Okay. Seems like a lot.
Any other questions for staff? All right. Well, thank you for that
Thank
in-depth
you.
explanation. At this time, then I'll open it up, or have the applicant and/or their representative come forward, speak to this agenda item.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thanks for having me. My name is Eric Omdahl. I'm a representative of Real Estate Equities, the applicant of this development proposal. Just first, I'd like to thank the thoroughness of staff on this matter. I know it's been a big help having this process walk through with James, coordinating the neighborhood meeting, gathering participation from citizens in the area, incorporating that feedback into a concept that hopefully we are able to bring forward and present on the site plan side of this in the coming months. We're really excited about this opportunity. We think this is a wonderful site for multifamily. We like the demographics and demand for this product in this market. In surveying the existing multifamily assets in the community, we've noticed in excess of 95% occupancy of that product type, and clearly a need for additional stock of a new age with a full suite of amenities. And so I know all of these comments and concerns related to traffic and right-of-way and various conditions we've vetted, and we're very supportive of bringing the project forward that will meet those conditions, and look forward to discussing the rest of the site planning matters in a meeting to come. So happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you for being here this evening. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
Get his address.
His address is on the application. Huh? I am. No questions for the applicant? Member Peters? No. All right. Well, then, since they made your job easy this evening so far, we'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to come forward? I'm going to ask you to state your name and address for the record again, but thank you for being here.
My name is Mary Elizabeth Mora, and I live directly south of the project. And first off, I'd like to say, as a member of Cottonwood Ranch, I did not receive any notices until I received this in the mail. I'm opposed to this for several reasons, and I speak for a number of the people on Racine Drive. First off, we're going to lose our view. Second, it's going to diminish the value of our properties. Well, visibility impact the people south will reduce the value of our home cotton. I feel we do not have the infrastructure there. And everybody, and I thank you, Jim, for talking about the streets, courts, and Treckle, but you forget the other side, coming down Pueblo and Cottonwood. And I have timed myself several times going from where I live on Racine out to Shadow Ridge, onto Treckle, or onto Cottonwood, where there are no street lights, and I've waited 4.5 minutes to get out there. Sometimes when school is in place and kids are coming and going, it can take longer than that. And why we haven't had more accidents there, it's a wonder to me, because this is just going to add way more to that, because the people that live there are going to definitely come down Pueblo. It's going to add traffic in our neighborhood. So they're not paying for our HOA, but they're going to use our property, and you're not even thinking about that. The other thing that I'm worried about is our water issue, and the biggest thing is our sewer. They are out there constantly working on Pueblo, digging up, not Pueblo, Treckle, digging up our sewer system. The smell is outrageous. What's it going to be when we add 200 and some odd more families? Not to mention, just south of us is a place called the Cottages going in there, which are more people. There are going to be more kids going to our school, more traffic, more water, more crime, more impact. We're closing down all our stores in the mall. We have no place to shop, yet we're getting all these developments, big businesses coming to town, Tractor Supply, the cars, the oxygen, everything. Where do we shop? We need some decent stores. I was told when I moved in there that that empty lot where the cottages are going were going to be high-end boutique stores and whatnot. Never came. Where do we shop? Where do all the people that are coming to this town shop? Impacting it with more people, with no infrastructure, no street lights, losing the value of our property. I'm opposed to this, and a lot of my neighbors are opposed to it. So that's my point on that, and I thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. Would anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I'm a property owner in Cottonwood, not a resident, but I do own a home that backs up to this lot. I live in Mesa. My name is Gerald Laverty, Laverty, and I reside at 9143 East Elman Avenue in Mesa. When I bought these homes that in Cottonwood were built about 15 years ago, and I bought mine from an original owner at 5 years ago, and I knew there was an empty lot out in the back, but it was supposed to be for commercial purposes in the future. And I thought, well, that would be pretty nice to have a Dollar General or a gas station and maybe a supermarket store, I don't know. And I thought that'd be all right, no high rises, nothing to block the view, really. Might block the sunset. But I do have to appreciate that you've given some thought to the heights of the buildings that you propose and the setbacks. And so if you do weigh in to change the zoning, I guess that we'll all have to live with that, but I'm with her a little bit. You got to think also of the traffic, the extra kids that are going to go to the school, and so on. It's hard to see change come, but it does come. And I would still like to have it not changed and keep the old zoning for business rather than residential. And there may be a reason to have more apartments, but I don't even know if this is the proper time to build them. Somebody might be in for a rude awakening on their investment.
Thank you for being here this evening. Would anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Bring back to the commission. There's a number of different points raised in regards to, I'll kind of reiterate, we're here for the rezoning. There will be an additional meeting in regards to traffic analysis, site plan, distances, setbacks, all those other things. Right now, we're just moving from commercial to R3.
Mr. Chairman,
Member Dugan.
I make a motion to move a favored recommendation of approval to the City Council for a request by the Real Estate Equities Incorporated from B2 General Business to R3 Multifamily Residential DSA-21-00275, approximately 9.9 acres with the recommendations of the staff,
As updated this evening in the staff report, or in the staff presentation, I should say.
Got it.
Yeah, you're good. So we can make sure we reference the
Okay.
update here.
Yeah.
So I have a motion,
I'll second it.
a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, just the one comment that crosses my mind. You know, I'm a real estate agent, and that this kind of housing is badly needed. The housing in this housing market, the continued prices for houses are going up, and it knocks out a lot of people that can't buy. And we need this. That's why I certainly need to support it.
Sure. Well, I think it'll be important during the next phase of this, in their final plats and building heights, and we'll better know, because maybe they're proposing only a 2-story. We don't know what's going to come in front of us at the next meeting.
So basically, this is going to go to city council, and the city council really going to decide. We're just making a recommendation.
We're making a recommendation to approve.
Yeah.
There will be opportunity for community to attend the council meeting, because they have the ultimate say on the rezone. So those community members here, if the result doesn't end up the way you would like, you do have the ability to go to the council meeting, because they will ultimately approve the change. So yeah. Any other discussion? Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
No.
Member Garza,
Just a comment before I vote here. I do think it's needed for the area. I just wanted to mention that they do have some work as far as transportation and circulation and driveway placement as far as, you know, with that major site plan to come. But yes, my vote is an aye.
Wait. You said yes?
You said
Yes.
an aye.
Okay, sorry, an aye. I just didn't know if she said deny. I was just trying to get clarification on the, thank you.
Member Peters,
I just have my own comment also. We're recruiting all these businesses to come to our town. Businesses bring employees. Employees need a place to live. A lot of them are not prepared to be buying homes just yet. They're not sure about our community yet, but these are necessary. One of the residents mentioned that a lot of the businesses are closing up and leaving. Well, that in itself means that there's no guarantees that any businesses, if this was zoned for business or commercial, that businesses would be coming when they're leaving. So I'm going to vote aye for this project.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Comments I made, aye.
Member Dugan,
Aye.
Chairman Miller,
Aye. All right. Yep, thank you guys. Thank you guys for being here. And as a reminder, it's scheduled for the March 7th council meeting, is that correct? So community members that are here, this will be heard again at the March 7th city council meeting, where they will make the final decision. And so you'll have the opportunity to be at that meeting as well, if you're able to, and or other community members, you can let them know as well. All right. Next agenda item, DSA-22-000007. It's a lot of zeros. It's not 007, that's quadruple 07.
That's right.
Sonoran Heights zone change from PAD to R2.
All right, thank you, Chairman Miller. This is also a zone change request for Sonoran Heights PAD to R2. A little bit of background. In November of last year, City Council approved a zone change for the bulk of the Sonoran Heights Planned Area Development Zone. The zoning was revised from PAD to R2 for all but 27.25 acres. So if you look on the left, that was the originally approved PAD as of right prior to the zone change. It predominantly was to accommodate for single-family residential development, but if you notice, there was about 20.3 acres of property designated for high-density residential up towards the top left of the PAD or northwest, and there was also a small sliver of commercial up towards the top right. As a result of the zone change, all but 27.25 acres went to R2 to accommodate a single-family neighborhood at a greater density than what could be achieved as a single-family PAD zone. So that left a 27.25 acre remnant of the PAD, and what that looked like was 20.3 acres was designated for high-density residential, which per the PAD allows 16 dwelling units per acre. And then there was a 6.95 acre remnant for single-family residential as part of the PAD that just didn't get picked up with that rezone to R2. And that area, would, if they were to develop that PAD today, they would only be able to develop 20.3 acres of that for multifamily purposes, and then the other 7 acres would have to be developed for single-family residential purposes, meeting PAD residential design standards. So that is what's driving the zone change, is to kind of clean that up and to take that remnant single-family area out of the PAD. So the request is to revise 7.69 acres from PAD to R2, and it would eventually be incorporated into the R2 single-family neighborhood. There is a pending preliminary plat being reviewed where it does exactly that. It takes 7.69 acres, as you see on the left, and it just adds some additional, it reconfigures the proposed lotting pattern to add some additional single-family lots. That would leave a 19.56 acre PAD remnant, a little smaller than the entitlement for multifamily today, but multifamily would still be allowed on those 19.56 acres at the same density of 16 dwelling units per acre. When looking at what's driving these requests from PAD to R2, it's important to note that it's really to take advantage of some lesser restrictions in terms of lot sizes and lot widths, which ultimately help the applicant propose a slight increase in density. And of course, that's to take the opportunity granted by this recent state legislation action where properties with existing certificates of assured water supply can seek an increase if it can be demonstrated that no additional groundwater is being used between the original analysis and the new analysis to support the increase. So the applicant does believe that these additional 7.69 acres going into the already approved R2 zone can be accommodated with the increase in certificates. And just like with the last R2 zone change for Sonoran Heights, we're recommending the same conditions of record, such as housing product would be required, that there are certain specific subdivision standards that would normally apply to single-family residential PDs would still apply to this R2 zone. I do specifically want to say that staff is recommending the open space minimum to be 15 and not 20, and the reason is that Sonoran Heights, I think, was the first of the several zone changes that you all saw going from PAD to R2, and that 20% open space condition was not implemented with this other zone change to R2, so we're just recommending that this be the same as the previous condition. It'd be much easier to implement because this is going to be incorporated into the larger preliminary plat. So it'd be really difficult to say the 7.69 acres is subject to 20% open space and the 220 plus other acres is subject to 15%. And then also, just like with the previous condition of record on the other R2 zoning for Sonoran Heights, is there's to be an HOA or a special maintenance district. So when considering zone changes, these are the three criteria that have to be evaluated, and they have to do with conformance with the general plan. So this area is within the neighborhood's general plan land use designation of the 2030 general plan. In the neighborhoods, single-family developments with homes on individual lots shall have a maximum gross density of 4.5 dwelling units per acre. So that will be kept in mind as we go forward with the next steps of the process, which I'll talk about on an upcoming slide. The other criteria that we look at is consistency with the city's general plan with regard to whether or not R2 is a supported zone district by the neighborhoods, and it is included as one of the appropriate zone districts within the neighborhood's land use category. As far as goals and action steps to support this zone change, one of the goals is to encourage variety in neighborhood designs and development patterns. And in so doing, how that's achieved is by providing a variety of housing choice for all income levels, generations, and household demographics. And we feel that this slight increase in density would help accommodate that. And one of the guiding principles is to increase the range of housing choices and products available to all members of the Casa Grande community. The public notification efforts met that which is required by city code. Staff did not receive any comments. And regarding the next steps, City Council is scheduled to hear this zone change at its March 7th meeting. It would be the first reading of the ordinance. And then ultimately, Planning Commission would be scheduled to hear a preliminary plat for this single-family neighborhood, potentially to include that 7.69 acres you're considering this evening to go to R2. And then council would consider a final plat for that subdivision. And then the next step would be for site development permits and final landscaping and public improvement permits and financial assurance, et cetera, to all be provided prior to the recording of the final plat. So staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve this zone change, subject to the following technical requirement and conditions of record that I covered this evening and within the staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. James, any questions for staff?
You know,
Member Dugan.
yes. You know, if they build these apartments, and we got all those houses that going around this apartment complex. And right now, Hennis Road, I assume Hennis Road will be completed for this project. So almost everybody on this 19.56 acres is going to go to Florence Boulevard to get on Florence Boulevard. Florence Boulevard right now is a parking lot. I don't know whether we should, I would be approval there of more houses, but to put another apartment complex there and more traffic on Florence Boulevard, I just think it's too much. Now, maybe people go around to Early Road, but I guarantee you they're going to take the shortest route, which is Florence Boulevard. Florence Boulevard is one big mess right now. The other one we proved because Treckle and Courtson that we just got done with, they got a lot of room for traffic. Florence does not. So that's my feelings on that, so I just want to let you know. No question.
Simple no would have been fine. Any questions for staff? Technically, it's public hearing, so you're allowed to have comment too. No other questions? Really? All right. Wow. Okay. Would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward, speak to this agenda item?
Good evening. My name is Dale Willis with Willis Property Company. I was before this wonderful commission just a few months ago on this site. Answered a few questions for Mr. Dugan and others, and this was just an oversight on our part on this little 7.69 acres, and so we wanted to kind of square it up to make sure it flowed well with the subdivision, so I'm here tonight to answer any questions on this little sliver we wanted to throw in to our subdivision, so.
Any questions for the applicant? No? I have a tough one for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to apologize ahead of time. So you've been now on both sides, with this project being on the first side of 15%, and then on the other side with, I think, some other projects with the 20%. And in looking at this, roughly adding the 7.69% gives you the opportunity to get probably close to a 20% open space, incorporating those two and combining them together. It's that, obviously it's your land, and if we're approving it under the 15%, we're approving it under the 15%, but I think it opens the opportunity for you as the developer to come in and say, hey, with this community, adding the 7 acres into this, you would be able to reach a 20%.
So what you're asking is on the 7 acres to make that open space, or to get it up to 20%?
If we include it into, if you add it into the
overall equation?
The overall equation. Now, you could spread it out across the entire subdivision, but it gives you the opportunity with the added acreage to get pretty darn close to, for the intent of the I guess, our newfound influx of R2s.
Sure.
So I guess
to
my
answer
only
your
question is that something that you would consider when bringing forward the final plat, or?
I think we'll consider it, but I don't want to agree to it
Oh,
tonight.
I'm not asking you to agree to it, because I
We
can't. I
consider
already
it.
approved it at 15, so
Yeah,
I can't ask you
I know,
to agree
I know.
to it.
So, we'll consider it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Other than that, that's the only question I had. Any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
No? Okay. Thanks you for being here this evening. All right, then at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion, bring it back to the commission.
I just have one question. Jim, is there been any contact with any landowner to the property to the north, as far as what the zoning is on that whole plot above, just north of this, that borders on East Florence Boulevard and, well, it would be the northeast or southeast corner there.
Right. Chairman Miller, Commissioner Peters, so currently that's zoned as a planned area development for a large shopping center. It was originally approved for the Costco that never happened.
Okay.
And it now sits as 3 different parcels owned by 3 different people. So I anticipate within the next, coming months or year or what have you, we'll be bringing forward some requests to modify the zoning in that area to reflect the fact that it's now owned by 3 different entities and it can't really develop as intended as a large shopping center.
Okay, yeah, because that could impact Commissioner Dugan's concerns for that corner there, so.
I will say that there's proposed development on the west side of Hennis Road that'll be coming forward to you probably sooner than anything directly north. And that will help prompt half-street improvements to Hennis, which will start opening that corridor up. And then, of course, as any development happens within Sonoran Ranch, Sonoran Heights, they'll have to do their respective half-street dedications and improvements to Hennis as well.
Okay, thank you.
And that will bring more traffic.
That's why we build roads.
Hey, Jim.
You can't build
Just real
anymore.
quick, on Mr. Dugan's point, do we just want to clarify that we're actually taking, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but we're taking property out of the high-density residential, putting it into the R2, which is more of a medium residential.
You can have
So it's
less
not going the
people.
other way. We're not we're not putting it into the high-density PAD. They're taking it out. So we're actually reducing the amount of high-density residential
Yeah,
with this request. So I just wanted, that's correct? Or-
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
the area that's designated high-density residential is the existing zoning. So you're correct that if there was no action taken, there would still be high-density residential entitled for that area, plus 7.69 acres of something else. And so all this does is it removes that 7.69 acres of something else and puts it into a single-family residential neighborhood.
So you can put 85 houses in there, according to 20 acres times 4.5, that's about 80 houses, over 80 houses, 90 houses. And then you can put an apartment complex, you can put 200-300 apartment.
Wait,
If you
wait.
go high-rise, you can put a lot more people in that high-density area. Doesn't make sense.
Hang on. 7
Right?
acres.
Right?
No, seven
Look,
acres.
you got the 20, you got 23, you got
Yeah, but
20
that's not,
acres.
those are two separate things, right? So you got,
You got 7.69 that's going in residential.
right.
That 19.
The
that
19 is
PAD
the
that-
high density still.
That's high density. That's already high density.
It's already
We're
high
not
density.
changing that.
We're going from 20 down.
Right.
Right,
Or
there'd be
25 or whatever
34
it's like.
units that could be built in that 7.69 acre
How many?
area. It's 34.
34 units.
How big of a house goes on a 4,000 square foot lot?
As big as they can make it.
No, I mean, seriously. Because we're getting all R2s, and how big of a house can you build?
It's about,
Is it
You don't.
1,500?
Well, the minimum lot size would be 5,000
I mean,
square
5,000,
feet.
excuse me, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no problem. Yeah, and generally, probably what would happen is you'd have a 35-foot wide home
Right?
with the 5 and 5 setbacks on a 45-foot wide lot. And then, depending on the length of the lot, but usually they're about 70 feet deep, so.
115 deep.
A house is about 70 feet deep.
Oh, the house, not the lot.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
sorry.
30,
that could
if
be
you can do
2,400
quick math,
square feet.
You can
35
put a
times
2,400
70.
square foot house.
If you maximized every square inch of that. Those dimensions that he just gave, 35 feet wide, 70 feet deep.
I mean, it may be a little longer, but you have to accommodate for front and rear
Right,
setbacks.
no, that's what I was trying to figure out.
2 stories versus.
I know, yeah.
2 stories, you could have a 4,800 square foot home.
It just seems awfully small.
Well, there's not a lot of yard. Less to take care of. Less to water.
45,
True.
70.
Are we back to here?
We are.
Sorry, I just wondered.
So I'd like to make a motion to forward recommendation to approve the zoning change request, DSA 22-0007, to the city council for Sonora Heights PAD to R2, with the conditions and requirements as presented.
Second.
Great, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I don't like this at
No other discussion?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
all. No.
Member Garza,
No, I just don't like it.
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Aye.
Member Dugan,
I abstain. I'd vote either way. Do I have to vote?
Yes.
Yes or no? Or I gotta
You
abstain?
can't. But I'm gonna turn to legal.
You should vote.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time you abstain is if you have
you have a-
a conflict of interest. But you
I
don't,
don't
I
have a
mean,
conflict of
no one's gonna require, like, make you vote.
You can't leave until you vote.
But, I mean, I think the expectation is that you vote unless you have a conflict, but it's obviously your choice.
Yeah, just vote however you want.
Okay, I'll vote yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes. All right. Congratulations. Good luck on the next steps there. Look forward to seeing you again with the updated plat. All right. Next agenda item. You're good. Public hearing and consideration requested by BS Gilbert?
Jack?
Where are we at? DSA 21-00239 for conditional use permit, and DSA-21-00240 for a major site plan for Caliber Collision.
All right, good evening, Chairman, members of the board. The next items on the agenda is for a major site plan and conditional use permit. The site is located on Florence and just east of Potabon, as you can see from the aerial. This is the last site to be developed within the subdivision. To the north is the Firestone Tire Shop, Circle K, and daycare to the west, excuse me. The site is in, the major site plan is a request for an auto body repair shop, and the conditional use permit is to allow automobile repairs within the B2 zoning district. Here are the conditional use permits and major site plan criteria. As you can see from the staff report, there is a lot of overlap with these with regards to the criteria. The staff report goes into more detail, and I will be kind of describing them together in my next couple of slides. So with regards to the site, the storage area shown in the light blue area is surrounded by a 6-foot CMU wall. They are proposing landscaping and retention to the east of the site. And regarding setbacks, per the CUP requirements, there's a 50-foot setback from the residential zoning. There is residential zoning to the south of this site, and it is set back at 57 feet. And to the east boundary line, it is 116 feet from the property line. And then with regards to this type of development, we do kind of like to see four-sided architecture to make it a little more developed. And we have gone back and forth with the applicant, and we also, requested a technical condition to add the rock detail on the eastern elevation along the 5 seams located here, and they are in agreement with that. Check out everything. Notes. Regarding notification, city met or exceeded the requirements, and I have not received any comments or inquiries to date. So staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit as an associated conditional use resolution, DSA 21-00239, for an automobile repairs within the B2 zoning with the following specific conditions. And staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the major site plan, DSA 21-00240, with the following technical corrections to the elevations. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Any questions? Yeah, Member Benedict.
Jack, can you go back to the elevations?
Yeah.
So, and this is an automobile repair service, so I guess all the repairs are planned to be on the interior?
Yes, and I just realized I didn't show the western elevation, but they are all conducted within the building, and along the eastern side is where the garage doors are, and then the storage area is located in the blue area for the cars.
Storage area leads into the bays.
Yes.
And then, one more, so your elevation shows an interesting thing that looks like a smokestack. Can you help me understand what that is?
I will ask the applicant to describe that. I believe it's just an exhaust type.
Okay. Paint.
Okay.
I think that's what.
Any other questions for the
I would think
staff?
it's for the paint, yeah.
No? All right, well then, I would invite the applicant and/or their representative, please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Jeff Bliley with Buse Gilbert and Groter, 701 North 44th Street, here on behalf of the applicant. And Nathan Larson's with me as well. He'll be able to answer any questions. I'll be brief. I think the staff report went over everything pretty well. We're in agreement with the stipulations, and happy to answer any questions with regard to the stack. That is a ventilation smokestack for the paint operation. So.
Wow. All right. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, so we don't have that elevation. How many, what would you call it, bay doors does it show?
We got to bring up the expert.
Yeah.
Bring up the real brain power here. Let's
That's my
go.
level of knowledge here.
Nathan Larson, Bowman Consulting, 2420 South Power Road, Mesa, Arizona. There's three bay doors. So there's one on the west elevation and then two on the south. One leads to the paint shop, the paint detail area, and then there's a circular drive that goes through the building. So you enter on the west and then exit out the south side. And then there's detail bays where they do the work off of that road. So the road is interior. All the work is done indoors. It's air conditioned. They shut the doors. It's soundproof, so yeah.
Sounds way too classy from all the body shops I've seen.
They're professional operations, so.
I got one question. So, does they have a wall around? I know because you're gonna get wrecked cars in there, so you're only gonna be working on them when you get in the building. So are you gonna have wrecked cars sitting outside that would, the neighbors would get mad at because of seeing the cars? Is there a block wall around it?
Yes, there is
Okay,
a block
so-
wall around the perimeter.
Okay,
That'd be
that's
the
all
red
that
line.
matters. So okay, thanks.
6 foot.
Yeah,
You don't need to be pointing out the notes on the slide.
I didn't
there.
notice that, I'm sorry.
And
I guess the only other concern would be the school, preschool. Is there any type of city condition, sorry, this I guess then technically for you guys, but it's any type of condition with the products in a paint booth or anything like that that we didn't think about in regard? I know you can't crop dust next to them, but I don't know if there's a.
So this business will be required to get a air quality permit from Pinell County.
Okay.
So to make sure the emissions meet, the clean air standards. So other than that, there are no regulations regarding the preschool.
Okay.
And to just further clarify, the paint booth has filtration systems that are used in California, so California typically is
way stricter than over here.
Way stricter, so.
That's fair. Well, I appreciate you guys being here this evening.
Thank you.
Chairman
Anything
Miller.
else?
Chairman Miller,
Oh, we got one more. Yes, Member Garza.
I just had a question for how the vehicles are going to come into the operation. Did they come via a tow truck, or how does that all work? And they're going to enter off of Florence Boulevard, I'm assuming?
So 90% of the cars are driven in by the owners. Only about 10% are towed in. They don't do any engine or tire work here. So it's all generally, the cars that are towed in, it's typically you get in a fender bender and the airbag goes off and they're not legally allowed to drive it. But most of the cars that come in here, they're not totaled cars because they don't do any engine work here. So the majority of the people will drive themselves in.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you guys again. Anything else? Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, Member Benedict.
So, will you have access off of Potty Bomb also?
Commissioner, through the chair, yes, we have a access easement through this preschool, or the school there.
Which I think that was set in place when the preschool came in, that
Yes, I
access easement.
was going to note that there are access agreements to Florence and Potabon.
Thank you.
And then I just also wanted to point out the distance from the east to the western boundary is 124 feet from the actual building to the property line to the
Preschool?
To the preschool.
Okay.
And the elevations that show the eastern boundary, western with the bays is page 14 of the staff report for this.
That's right. I thought I'd seen it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. At this time, then, I'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I'll close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA-21-00239 for a conditional use permit to allow automobile repair services with the staff recommendations.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for, to approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I also move to approve DSA-21-00240 for a major site plan for 11,580 square foot auto body shop, repair shop with the recommendations from the staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The major site plan with the technical corrections provided. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right, guys, we made it all the way to number 5.
Yay.
Flying through this agenda item this evening, Thank you, guys. Have a good evening. Everybody good? Anybody need a break? Keep pounding it out.
Get some water. We
It's
can,
either this one or after.
yeah,
Let's
let's
just
do this one and then go.
All right.
Take a break.
DSA 21-00197, conditional use permit. Oh, these two. DSA -21-00196, major site plan for Take 5 Oil Depot.
Right, next item, again, is for a conditional use permit and major site plan. This site is located on the southeast corner of Florence Boulevard and Pert Road at the abandoned Circle K site. This would be a redevelopment of the site, tear down of the existing building, and new building would be constructed. And again, it's a conditional use permit to allow automobile repairs within the B2 zoning district. So again, here are the conditional use permit and major site plan criterias. I'll be covering these together. As you can see from the staff report, there is a lot of overlap. So with regards to the site, site for the proposed use is adequate in size and typography to accommodate the use and includes walls and fences, parking, loading, and landscaping. So the applicant is showing a 3-foot screening wall abutting Florence and Florence Boulevard and Pert Road, and they are also including 4-sided architecture for the site as well. With regards to access, the site will have right in, right out on Florence Boulevard and Pert Road because of the medians already in place in this area. With regards to notification, staff met or exceeded the requirements, and I have not received any inquiries or comments on this project. So with that, staff recommends Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and associated conditional use resolution for that's a typo, automobile repair shop within the B2 zoning district with the following specific conditions related to signage, and recommend Planning Commission approve the major site plan, DSA 21-00196. Happy to answer any questions.
I only have one. It's a big lot behind that building, this old Circle K building. Is the rest of the lot behind the Circle K building? I know you got entryway from there that they go into the oil change deal. Is the rest of the lot going to be landscaped, or is that just going to be dirt?
Yes, they are showing retention and landscaping on the south side.
The entire lot will be landscaped
But this can, so,
with bushes and so forth. Not, that goes all the way to the rear of the lot?
Yes.
Okay.
As you can see in the site plan.
That's all I want to know. It's just so it doesn't look like an eyesore. Okay?
any other questions?
I have a question.
No, I just wanted, she's just
Member
answering.
Hubbard?
With the road, just on Pert, just a quick question. You're not going to change anything there, right? You're saying it's right in, right out, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Really dumb question, but the intersection on Pert, people go into the Starbucks, and they're always flipping right there. So if you're going to have another, is there any way that you can shorten that so then you can go in and out?
So,
Do you know what I'm saying?
so the median is creating the right in, right out.
I don't know how many times there's always.
The median
Yes.
is not quite long enough to prevent the left turn out of Starbucks. Though in theory, it's supposed to stop it.
It's supposed to, but it
I know,
doesn't.
that's what I'm saying. So it's not quite long enough.
But
to-
when you leave Starbucks, you're gonna flip a U-E around that medium. I'm
You're
not
just
saying
gonna
Chris
park a
Hubbard
cop
does.
there.
Right.
Teasing, I'm teasing. Sorry, it's getting late.
I'm just saying.
There's not a no U-turn sign.
Yeah, so ultimately,
I could just see,
If I,
hang on.
does that make sense what I'm asking?
yeah, Commissioner Hubbard, understand what you're saying. However, the driveway that's on the southern end of, by the Starbucks is located kind
'Cause
of
the
adjacent, perpendicular with the end of the median. So this driveway is more north to Florence, so they
But-
really wouldn't be able to do that at this location.
Because the median is like right.
See
equal-
it? You see the little loop? You see how it
Yeah,
looks
they
like
got a
it gets
loop going.
bigger, like a little Q-tip end?
So it's further down.
Yeah, it goes further
Okay,
south.
I totally
and so-
misunderstood. I'm
yeah.
sorry, I was thinking it was right there.
Yeah,
No.
Okay,
It goes
never
further
mind.
south, so
Never
you
mind.
can't take a left out of here.
Okay, never mind.
I guess you
then.
could, but you'd be going to oncoming traffic, so.
Well, then I'll be going to auto collision. No, just
Yeah,
joking.
right. We got some future business for the other guys.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, I just
We're
saw
good.
that.
And I will note, really, the going south on Pert is really the only,
No, north,
the south on Pert is the only
Yeah,
going north.
direction you wouldn't be able to go out of this
yeah.
site, because
Yeah,
you
you-
would be able to go right on
No.
Pert and then
Right, you
No.
have to
west
just take a
on
left onto Florence and then
Yeah.
pull in.
No.
You can't go left on Florence.
west on Florence from Pert, I'm
If you're
saying.
heading south on Pert, you take a left on Florence Boulevard and turn right into the property.
No, you would go right.
You can't go
Yes.
through Florence Boulevard and take a left in. You have to take a left on. So yes, you can get there. You can get there from a lot of directions. Everything's good.
Well, I mean, you
All
couldn't
right.
exit the
It was-
the site and go south on Pert.
Cannot.
That is the only
You cannot.
restriction.
Cannot
I just
exit
thought it was
and go south.
parallel. I
You're
misread
good.
this, that's all.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
My bad.
Any other questions? Sweet. Applicant, want to come forward? Talk to us. Name, address for the record?
Yeah. Hi, good evening, Chairman and fellow Commissioners. Jeffrey Moss with Gensler, representing the client. Take 5, address is 2575 East Camelback Road in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm here to answer any additional questions. Thank you, Jacqueline, for the presentation.
All right. Any questions? For
Oh,
the
yeah.
applicant? Oh, remember
Hi.
Regan.
Yeah. You
Please.
realize there's a bigger oil change place 400 to 500 feet away from you. You realize that, so you're going to have 2 oil places almost right next to each other. I just want to let you know that.
I appreciate
In case
that.
you've never been to Casa Grande.
Yeah, if you've never
I
been,
just
you're
wondered.
living Camelback. I
What are you
think,
trying to
I
run a
just
new
kind of
business
wonder.
out of town?
And that one's
Do it.
empty a lot of the time I go by there. It's the damnest thing I ever seen, you know?
I know. Well, in this one evening, I've seen multiple new zoning and residential buildings coming aboard.
All those people need oil changes, don't they?
I think so.
You guys keep talking about all this traffic on Florence Boulevard. It's the perfect place for him to be. You said it's like a parking lot. They're gonna pull in and get their oil changed. What do you mean? All right. Any questions for the applicant? No? Well, thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate it. Always enjoy it when an applicant attends. All right. So at this time, then I'm going to open it up from the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I'm going to close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA-222, what is it, 00009? No, that's number 6, number 5. Is that
Number
correct?
number
We're on number
7?
5, right?
Number 7?
Yes, number 5.
We're number 5,
Yeah,
yeah. DSA-21-00197, conditional use permit to allow automobile repair services in B2 zone with the conditions of the staff recommends.
I'm assuming with the associated resolution as well.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
All right.
The motion is in a second. Any discussion? Further clarification on traffic? Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. She almost called you Chairman Dugan. Easy.
Okay. Did you vote? I voted
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah, I voted yes. We're on to the next item now.
No, we got it.
We're just all looking at you to make the motion.
Make a motion to approve DSA-2100196, major site plan for approximately 1,410 square feet of oil change facility, which is, after seeing the picture, it is a great enhancement for that corner, so. Instead of the eyesore that we have there.
Whoa.
So anyway, what recommendations that the staff put with it?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? No? Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Thank you for a nice plan. It really looks like a good plan for something we're gonna have to have, and boy, as the wise man here said, it's gonna be a good improvement. Thank you so much. Aye.
Aye for me.
Member Dugan, Chairman Miller.
Yes.
Okay.
You criticize him for opening an oil place right next to an oil place.
Well, I didn't criticize
But then you
him. I just
congratulated
wanted
him
to
on
know there's
improving the
another oil
corridor.
place 500 feet away from him.
All right, we're going to take a brief recess so we can recharge. We start getting a little squirrely around 8 o'clock.
He opens dairy.
Bring this bad boy back. They're just gonna win.
Yeah, they're boring now.
All right. Yeah, they're boring. All they do is win. Next agenda item, DSA-22-00009. Zone change from R2 to B3. Block 36 of the Casa Grande town site.
All right, Chairman Miller, members of the commission. The next couple requests are zone change requests on city-owned properties. DSA 22-0009 is a zone change from R2 to, which is multifamily development, to B3, which is the central business zoning. This is known as Block 36 of the Casa Grande town site. It is bounded by 2nd Street on the south, Toltec Street on the east, 3rd Street on the north, and Dry Lake Street on the west. As you can see, this is the existing zoning showing the R2 zoning and the proposed zoning with the B3 zoning district. The B3 allows for a wide range of uses, including commercial and multifamily. We do not have any current proposals as of yet. However, this is just city looking at redevelopment of the site. And at the time of proposal and major site plan, the city will have community meetings to go over the proposal. So with regard to the zone change review criteria, we look at the city's general plan. As you can see from the map on the right, within the 2030 general plan, this is the downtown area. Looking at the action consistent with the general plans, B3 is included as an appropriate zoning district within the downtown general plan land use category. Within those are goals and actions, and one of the main goals is to develop a strategy for downtown development and redevelopment and adaptive reuse. The staff report goes into additional details regarding these goals as well. And then the rezoning to B3 will again allow the most flexibility with regards to uses, setbacks, and parking requirements. And again, the B3 zoning district is the most compatible with the downtown land use category. The rezoning of the site will potentially accommodate redevelopment of the site into multifamily and or mixed use development should the city decide to sell these sites. Regarding notification, efforts meet or exceed those requirements set by the code. I did receive one phone call from a neighbor in the area requesting additional information. I did send them the staff report and did not receive any additional feedback on that. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve DSA 22-00009 from R2 multifamily residential to B3 central business. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, one is the city, they want to go to central business, so they want to put businesses there instead of apartments. So do they have anybody in mind, or there's people approaching them about it, or why the change?
The main reason for the zone change to B3 is to allow, B3 allows for both commercial and multifamily development with a conditional use permit, and it allows for zero setbacks and lesser parking requirements in the downtown area. So that's the main reason for the B3 zoning.
Yeah. So they don't really have a prospective user right now, the city?
Not yet. Not. The city's working on it.
Like to know.
Yeah, and again, once we there is a proposal at the time of major site plan, we will have community meetings to go over this with the neighborhood.
Any other questions for staff?
Chairman Miller, I have a question.
Yeah.
What is located east of the site and south of the site?
So to the south is, I believe,
St.
so
Anthony's.
Caddy Corner is St. Anthony's, and then that is St. Vincent de Paul and the school. And then to the east is, I believe, another church and some other residential.
Oh, okay. So really the primary residential is on the north end. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I guess it's, and I hear what you're saying, that this zoning allows it. I just hate to see us lose, at this time, to lose housing, housing inventory that we sure need those, but as you talked about, that we can do some of that here.
So this has
let's
cause.
go that direction.
Right, this has cause. No cause. So then the R3 or R2, it doesn't matter then. Going commercial is actually benefits us.
Well, no, B3 does allow for multifamily development with the conditional use permit. So the idea is that it can still develop as multifamily.
Right, but it would develop multifamily as a single user, like an apartment complex or condo, or it can't develop as individual lots currently.
That's correct. The property has no cause, so you could develop multifamily for rental. You really could not develop owner for rent. Technically, if Jacqueline, can you pull up the graphic that has the lotting on it? Any of those, that's fine. So since you actually do have individual lots there today, those are pre-cause lots. They were developed prior to 1980. So technically, you could develop today a single-family home or a duplex on each of those lots and sell them and be owner-occupied because they're kind of cause exempt because they're pre-Groundwater Management Act.
Any other questions? You good? Does B3 down in the downtown district, we were working on that floor level business, second level residential. Is that included in that? We had done a conditional use permit for the one downtown.
So mixed use is allowed in the downtown, but when that mixed use includes residential, that requires a conditional use permit.
Correct,
So,
but
yeah.
with the conditional use permit, you, in
Yes.
theory, could create shops.
Absolutely.
And then apartments on top or whatever.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And the general plan kind of encourages that kind of development as
Right.
well.
Okay. All right, any other questions? No? Well, you are the applicant as well, so this time then I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public want to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public portion. Commission?
You're trying to make a motion.
You getting tired of that?
Make a motion.
All right.
Only if he wants to.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for a request by the City of Casa Grande for a zone change from R2 multifamily development to B3 central business for DSA-22-000009 for property known as Block 36 in the Casa Grande town site with the listed borders, and I don't think there's any,
Nope, you're good.
that's it.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Aye.
Member Dugan,
Yep, yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yeah. All right. We got a threefer on the next one. Woo. Downtown zone changes. DSA 22-00010, zone change from I-1 to B3. DSA 22-00011, zone change from I-1 and R2 to B3. And then DSA 22-00012, zone change from I-1 to B3.
Right, yes, this request is for 3 zone changes. First one, DSA 220010 is located at 315 West Main Avenue and is currently zoned I-1. DSA 220011 is a request to rezone from I-1 and R2 to B3. The site is bounded by Florence Street, First Ave, Second Avenue, as well as Top and Bottom Street. And then the third request is DSA 220012, zone change from I-1 to B3. As you can see from the previous slide, this does have 2 local historic sites, the Casa Grande Hotel and Shaughnessy House. Staff would like to see these sites incorporated into any redevelopment with an adaptive reuse. Any proposals would have the appropriate application go to the Historic Preservation Commission at time of development. Again, here's the existing zoning as well as the proposed zoning to B3. So again, with the zone change review criteria, we look at the actions consistent with the city's general plan. As you can see, this is, again, located in the downtown land use category. Again, B3 is an appropriate zoning district within the downtown general plan. Again, the staff report goes into additional detail on the goals and action steps within this land use category. However, one of the main goals is to prioritize mixed-use development in and around the surrounding downtown areas. The rezoning to B3 would allow the most flexibility with regards to uses, setbacks, as well as parking requirements. And again, at the time of major site plan, the city will conduct community meetings as well. Regarding notification, again, matter exceeded the requirements. I did receive a few inquiries on this site, on these requests. I did receive an email from the adjacent property owner at next to 315 West Main Avenue. He just wondering about the zone changes, and I sent him the staff report and addressed kind of what the redevelopment requests were for, and he seemed happy with that. And then I did also receive a call regarding 218 South Top and Bottom Street, and he was interested in redevelopment of the area. So with that, staff does recommend putting commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approval zone change DSA 220010, DSA 220011, and DSA 220012. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah.
Yeah, Member Benedict.
So again, there's not particular plans for this?
Not yet.
Okay.
Again, the reasoning behind the zone changes is to market them for redevelopment, and it allows the most flexibility.
Some of you have heard my concerns for the historic structures that are there, and the neglect that the city has done with those properties, and I support this. So let's move ahead and make some progress on them instead of them just sitting there. And I got to say, I hope the city will do a better job with them moving forward.
So is the concept the city's going to rezone these, sell them for redevelopment? Or is it they're trying to retain them and create some sort of development partnership? Why?
So we might do any of those, right? The city is interested in encouraging redevelopment and use of these properties because we think they're underutilized.
Yeah.
We think that they certainly should not be industrial uses, which is why we're seeking the B3 because, although again, we think residential uses here make a lot of sense, or mixed uses, we also think that any new development or redevelopment should incorporate the Casa Grande Hotel and the Shaughnessy House to some degree in the proposals, but whether the city retains some, sells them all, or has a partnership, a public-private partnership, remains to be seen. So all options are kind of on the table, but we know that first step is we need to put them in a
goal is
B3
just to
zone to give
create
us
the
some
most
flexibility to actually effectively, get some interest in redeveloping these properties.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Just these properties, and have they been identified by the historical people at all?
Excuse me, by the what?
By the historical people?
So yes, some of them have. The hotel and the Shaughnessy House are both local historic landmarks.
Right.
So they're governed. Any alterations to those buildings or reuse of those buildings require approval by our Historic Preservation Commission. So yes, and we're very sensitive to what happens to those historic structures. The other properties, of course, no, they're vacant, so there's no historical significance to those.
So that has no impact on zone changes then?
No, just the historical designation of the hotel and the Shaughnessy House just requires that any exterior modifications to those structures have to be approved by our Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay. Thank you.
Of which Commissioner Benedict sits on that commission as well.
Okay.
I.e. leveling them would require the approval of the historical.
Yes, it would, not technically approval, but review by them. Yes, demolition is allowed, but under certain restricted conditions. But the city really has no interest in demoing the Shaughnessy House or the hotel.
But somebody bought it and wanted to do something else that didn't incorporate in that bigger section of all those lots, that would be an opportunity.
It would be, but the city would also have the option of restricting that through the sale of the properties.
Sounds like it would
Just
make...
making sure that the minutes reflect many opportunities without restrictions if necessary.
Shaughnessy House sounds like it could make a good brewery.
Well, they could still name it that. Just have a new building there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's getting late.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? No questions? All right. I'm going to open it up to the public. Anybody from the public?
Yeah, sorry. I know it's been a long night. This is Aaron Jordan, Dispatch again. I wanted to know, I'm probably going to bother some people from the city about this tomorrow too, but it looked like at one point this area was, there's something called Life on Main. There was some big development project in the works. I don't know if anyone knew what happened with that, or what the status of that is, if part of this, if that is still an option or a consideration for that area, or if that's just sort of a ghost of, city planning past or something. Yeah.
Do we want to connect afterwards about that? If he's going to bug you about it anyways? I don't know if that's, Life on Main is...
Sure, we'll discuss that with Aaron tomorrow if it's okay. But the short version is the Life on Main plan, which was a small area plan. It was done before the general plan. The general plan kind of, as you see the industrial zoning, the Life on Main plan actually called for a couple of these properties to be used maybe as some kind of light industrial buildings, and then also some of these properties to be used as residential multifamily. So I would say that we're implementing some of the recommendations in the Life on Main with this rezoning, but the industrial portion, certainly not. We're going away from the industrial. But we'll give Aaron more details on that tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Oh, hang on one second. We have an issue with the mic.
Put the mic down. Do your mic, push it down.
Is it on?
Push it down, there you go. Battery? Here, she can use this one.
Hang on.
Thank you.
There we go.
First of all, I want to tell you guys thank you, and I appreciate your valuable time.
Could you state your name and address for the record one more time, just so that's on the...
Yes, my name is Geneva Jarrett. I live at First Avenue, 325 West First Avenue in Casa Grande. I just have two concerns. If we put a housing development there, we worry about the railroad tracks with the kids there, because there's been many accidents. And the warehouse, we'd love to have there, just worried about the traffic with the semis, because when they block the road, we get all the semis. So we'll just be happy to have a warehouse there.
Something.
To get rid of the noise from the trains, so.
Sure.
We're happy. We just appreciate it, but we're just more concerned about the housing development with the kids with the railroad tracks there. So that's one of our concerns about.
Okay.
So, but we appreciate you guys, and thank you for your valuable time.
Great. Thank you for waiting patiently
Yeah.
through this very long meeting back there this whole time.
You guys have all the hard work. Thank you so much.
Maria Arias, and I live by her, just right in front of the banquet area that doesn't have anything on. And I'm also concerned about the children. Our neighborhood has a lot of children. They play in the street. We have a lot of semis. They go through there, they get lost. And if they probably reroute the semis to go in a different place, and that would be much nicer, because that's our number one concern that I have all the time I back up with my truck. And yeah, that would be a concern. To me, warehouses would be the fine thing, or probably a rental place to people can, just go rent or something so they can put their stuff in or something like that, but something that would also profit, right, the community. But my main concern is the family. Yeah.
Great.
I know it's an industrial, area, but we got to think about that also. And we got all those big trucks going through even our First Street, our First Avenue. They always go through my house. So it's like, that's our number one concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else from the public? All right, so close the public portion. Commission?
I'll make a motion, I guess.
Wow.
You do it.
Good job.
I make a motion of approval from the Planning Commission to the City Council recommendation to approve the zone change request from DSA-222-00010 from 1-1 Garden Light Industrial to B3 Central Business.
Second.
To have a motion and a second to forward a recommendation to City Council. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Aye.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to make a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission forward to the City Council to approve zone change request DSA-22-00011 from 1-1 Garden Light Industrial to R2 Multifamily Development to B3 Central Business.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to forward a recommendation for approval to City Council. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Aye.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes.
And also, number 3, recommend a favorable a favorable vote to the city council for recommendation to approve zone change request DSA-22-00012 from 1-1 Garden and Light Industrial to B3 Central Business.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to forward a recommendation to approve the zone change to city council. Do I hear any discussion? Hearing none, Natalie, please call the roll.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Aye.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Congratulations, city, on getting approvals on all your items in front of us this evening.
With no conditions.
No
No
conditions.
conditions.
It's funny how the city didn't have any conditions on their approvals, huh? Oh, all right. Next up, what do we got? DSA 22-00017. We're talking about zoning code text amendments. Yeah, no?
Yes, so the next item is, again, DSA 22-0017, and this is a zoning code text amendment. The reasoning the Planning Commission is hearing this request is because it is amending the zoning ordinance, and per the code, any amendment has to be heard by the Planning Commission with a recommendation to City Council. So the zoning code text amendment is to amend section 17.07.170, duties of the Historic Preservation Commission, and adding section 17.62.145, procedures for naming and renaming of city facilities. For a little background on the information, the city is in the process of revamping some of its boards and commissions and committees to make them more efficient. One of these changes is to disband the Heritage Committee and include their duties regarding naming and renaming of city facilities into the Historic Preservation Commission. So staff recommends Planning Commission forward a favorable recommendation to City Council for adoption of the proposed ordinance amending section 17.08.170 and creating section 17.62.145. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? It's a beautiful flag, Celeste, by the way. Okay? I know, I saw.
I was just wondering.
There,
That's
don't
all the
worry.
flag there.
You got to see what we got to see, okay?
Okay, I was ready to, sing this whole flag. Yeah. Okay.
Right. All right.
Yep.
Yes, Member Benedict.
When was the last time a naming opportunity came up?
I believe it's been since about 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I think it was when you were on the Heritage Commission, wasn't it?
You got to name a building?
I don't remember what it was.
If you write a check, you can put your name on it. Right? That's the way it works.
Only if we approve it.
That's it. Better be a big check to get his approval. All right, any other questions? No?
Salute.
I would entertain a motion.
No, we got to open to the public, right?
Oh, public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Sorry, I get sidetracked sometimes because. No, closing the public portion.
It's your turn to make a motion.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'd move to forward a favorable recommendation to the city for adoption of the proposed ordinance amending section 17.08170 and creating section 17.62.145 regarding additional duties for the Historic Preservation Commission.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so I have a motion and a second for a recommendation of approval to City Council. Any discussion? Could we add some more duties to them? Is that, I'm just Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right, last public hearing for the evening, DSA-21-00107, Calder Commons preliminary plat, and DSA 21-00202, subdivision variance.
Okay, the first request regarding the preliminary plat, Carlton Commons is proposing 999 single-family lots on approximately 231 acres. This is a density of 4.32 dwelling units per acre. A little background on the zone change. The zone change was to R2 was approved in November of last year by the City Council from P80 to R2. This is one of the first of these requests, and it has the following conditions of record. It limits the site to single-family development. And this particular zone change was approved with the 15% open space. However, the preliminary plat and preliminary landscape plan is proposing 19% of open space. And again, it does allow for front yard landscaping, and fence returns will be included as part of the housing products review criteria that will be reviewed administratively, as well as the open ownership and management of the common areas and retention basins will be established prior to the recording of the final plat. So looking at the review criteria of the R2 zoning, the minimum requirement of the site is 5,000 square feet. The preliminary plat and layout has a lot size ranging from 5,400 square feet to 6,660 square feet. And then the other item I wanted to discuss is access to public roads. The site does have 8 access points along Doan Street, Arizola, Early Road, as well as Hennis. As the development is constructed, Half Street improvements and necessary other improvements will be constructed accordingly with each phase. In addition, there are additional TIA comments regarding these roadway improvements that will need to be addressed prior to final plat approval. These are depicted in the conditions of records coming up on an upcoming slide that I'll go over. Second request is a subdivision variance. In reviewing the initial submittal, staff noticed that blocks were longer than allowed within the subdivision ordinance. Per code 16.16.160, block lengths within residential areas are limited to 600 feet or no more than 12 times the minimum lot width, which would be 540 feet in this case. And then according to city code, a variance to the subdivision code can be granted. This is outlined in more detail in the staff report as well. Again, per city code 12.30A, the following findings are required and must be met to approve this variance request, and the applicant's responses is shown in the staff report. So one of the purposes of the shorter blocks is to promote pedestrian access and connectivity and to discourage speeding within the neighborhood. In order for the city to support this request, open space corridors with pedestrian trails as well as chicanes or traffic calming measures were needed to be added. The applicant has introduced open space corridors with pedestrian trails and these chicanes or traffic calming measures at pedestrian crossings that will help pedestrian safety as well as assist in slowing traffic in these areas. This is a little excerpt of the preliminary plat showing this pedestrian trail along with the chicanes in the roadway. I know they're a little hard to see, and one of the other conditions is to show the typical sections of this in the final plat. Again, the staff report goes into additional detail on the specific locations. So notification, has been met or exceeded the requirements. I did receive one inquiry today from an adjacent property owner. Just want to know a little bit more about the project. I thought he was going to be here tonight, but he is not. So with that, staff recommends Planning and Zoning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve the subdivision design variance for block length DSA 2100202 as depicted per the preliminary plat. And staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for Carlton Commons for phases 3, 4, and 5, subject to the following conditions. I do want to note that with discussions with the applicant as well as the city's traffic engineer, item number C has been updated since the staff report. We did revise number 3 as well as remove number 5. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Questions for staff? Member Benedict.
Anything you can share with us about the concerns for the contact that you did have?
He was the adjacent property owner, and he does farm this area, so he was just wondering about impacts to his property or what could occur also on his land. So it wasn't necessarily a concern, just inquiry.
Okay.
Miller, I have a question.
Yes, Member Garza.
The PIA, the items that were addressed, 3 and 4,
5.
I believe, that were addressed recently. Oh, there's only 4 here, right?
There's a 5th one in the staff report that's been removed now.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't 4. Okay. I just was curious how they ended up addressing those comments. If Dwayne could give us some details.
Dwayne, finally got your call this evening, man. Finally.
We almost made it all night.
If he's awake.
We had to wake him up, but that's okay.
So there's a number of unknowns that we don't have the answers for right now. So our plan is to get together with a meeting with the developer and us and iron out some of the details. Does that answer your question?
I will add.
It was vague, but go ahead.
Oh, I was
Sorry,
just saying,
Member Hubbard.
number 3, the design, or item C3, I guess you should say, was just revised to say based on the finalization of the TA and discussions with city staff as specified above. So that was the only other addition to the condition.
It's just slightly.
Oh, so it wasn't removed, it was just.
Yeah, it was
just
changed
modified.
It was just
in the
modified.
language. Oh, okay, I understand. Is this a typical situation where we haven't approved the TIA before approving the final or the preliminary plat? I'm just curious because I'm new to the commission.
Yes, that happens once in a while. In this case, there's a number of things we need to decide. Who pays for a traffic signal, for instance? How much does the developer pay and how much do we? So there's a bunch of those things that we just need to sit down and iron out.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Does the city have, it's a lot of homes here, so the city's already, they know the city can handle the sewer, the water, the whole situation here. The sewer capacity in some areas are at maximum. Just curious if the city can handle all these homes.
So, in conjunction with the next stage of this process, which is the final plat, the developer has to provide us with a sewer report that tells to us about which sewer mains they're going to be feeding their sewage into, their wastewater, and the amount. And so then we take that information and we analyze it to see if our main distribution system within the city can accommodate that, and B, whether or not our treatment plant can accommodate that. Those are unknowns at this point. because we don't have that final sewer analysis. We'll get it at the next stage, but we won't allow homes to be built, nor will the final plat be approved unless we have verified that we do have capacity to handle their wastewater.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? All right. Well, at this time then, would the applicant and or their representative come forward? Thank you for being here and waiting patiently all the way to the end.
Dale Willis with Willis Property Company, Mesa, Arizona. We'd like to thank Jacqueline for her help, Dwayne of recent with his input on the traffic impact analysis. We have Mike here from EPS Group, our engineering firm, and he can answer any technical questions that you might have. But again, I want to make note that we have 19% open space for you. So,
You know, I was going to commend you on it till you brought it up, and now I got to say that you fell 1% short of 20. But
Can we negotiate?
so I want to have at least one attaboy.
Yeah, right.
1%
One
more.
couldn't find, engineer, you couldn't find 1 more % in there somewhere? Come on.
So we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for the applicant?
The only thing is, you have to harness your water supply for the entire acreage, correct?
We do, yes.
Okay.
We do.
Thank you.
Anything else? No? Yeah? No?
I'm just worried about this R2. I know I keep bringing it up.
Well, we
but-
approved that one a long time ago, though.
I know.
You got that through early.
I know, so, yeah.
You're not even worried about all the traffic that is going to go
I'm
from
worried
here on to
about-
We're not
Florence
even getting to
Boulevard?
that point. When we get to
Yeah.
plans, we'll go from there.
This is
just-
the preliminary
we gotta
plan,
give
then
it
come
to
back
city
to us.
council, you know. We gotta give it to the city council, they're the one that really gonna rush it.
Well, you were concerned about all that traffic on Florence today.
I am.
I thought you'd bring it up,
They
but this
gotta
one.
They gotta open up Early Road and all that stuff too, so.
It's a
Well,
huge subdivision.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate, I'm very thankful you guys went to 19%, because I do know that you got in before we started adding that, at least with this property. And so, much appreciated in regards to that and taking those steps. So, excited to see more development in our community.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public want to speak to this agenda item? They're all, don't look around like they're all. I'm going to close the public portion.
Go ahead.
Public portion has been closed.
Aw.
Commission?
Make a motion to make a favorable recommendation to the city council to approve the subdivision design variance for block lengths DSA-21-00202 as depicted for the preliminary plat.
Second.
Motion and a second. Forward a recommendation of approval to council. Any discussion? Hearing none. Snuck in with that 19% and nobody even questioned the length of the block. There wasn't a single question about it. Natalie, would you call the roll, please?
Member Hubbard?
No.
Member Garza?
I'm done.
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes.
And I make another motion to, that goes to the city council. No, there isn't one, is there?
No, we're gonna approve the preliminary plat for
Okay.
Carlton Commons.
Okay. Now.
To make a motion to approve the preliminary plat of Carlton Commons for phase 3, 4, and 5, subject to the following conditions.
I make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No, as amended.
As amended. Subject to the following conditions? Oh, presented.
The conditions
It's
as
presented
presented.
this evening, not listed in the staff report. Gotcha.
Good. Did a good job.
Yeah? No? All right. Natalie, call the roll, please.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you. Good luck on the next steps. Good luck at council. All right. Next item, public comment. I'm gonna open it up to the public. Anybody wants to say something? Don't all rush up at once, please. In an orderly line. I'm gonna close the public portion. We have some reports by the director.
The only report is the building permit report that you've been provided and the land use project report. Other than that, nothing to report.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.